What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Height Over Heart MMA. And this weekend we have UFC 322 Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. We also have Valentina Shevchenko versus Weili Zhang on the card, as well as a couple other banger matchups taking place in the historic Madison Square Garden. First go, we're going to look at last week's card, look at the bets, and see how we did. Alright, so first fight of the night, Zach Reese versus Jackson McVeigh. This is a fight that we didn't break down because Reese stepped in on a couple days' notice. Pretty exciting fight. McVeigh won the first, had Reese rocked, but Reese ended up getting the takedown and getting the sub in the second. We did have a bet for the McVeigh-Valentine fight to not go the distance, so if we use that one here, which is what I played, it would have hit as well. Next up, we got Daniel Marcos versus Miles Johns. We did have Miles Johns at plus 3.5. He ends up getting finished by rear naked choke in the second round. Marcos was just, it looked like the bigger man in there. I did not think he was going to out-wrestle Johns, but just him being the bigger man, he was kind of ragdolling him around and ended up getting the submission. Then we got the women's fight. Went with Gomes here. That bet cashes. Classic women's decisions. Gomes just had the bigger moments, and you could tell just had the punching power. Hoka versus Jimenez. Hoka goes out there, steamrolls him in the first round. Not really sure what to take away from this fight. I mean, Hoka looked good, but we have no idea how good Jimenez is, so we'll see how they do in the next one. Cavalcanti versus Bueno Silva. Cavalcanti gets done via unanimous decision. Just pieces up Bueno Silva from range for the entire fight. Next up, we got Barcelos versus Simone. Had Simone to win that one. Very competitive fight. Barcelos, still got it at 40 freaking years old, man. I mean, he was stinging Ricky with some shots. He's throwing a nice 1-2 that Ricky would slip, and then he switched to going a 1-2 and then uppercut, and he started hitting him. Good win from Barcelos. Next up, we got Jamal Emmers versus Hyder Emil. Very competitive first round. I gave it to Emil, so I thought that our plus 3.5 should have hit, but only one judge saw it 29-28. Then the second and third, Emmers started taking him down and controlling him. Had an arm triangle close a few times, but ended up just getting it done by decision. Next up, we got CLD versus Tulio. Had Tulio money line here. He was looking good, mixed in the grappling, but that spinning shit, man. CLD, he's a dangerous dude. Ends up hitting him with a spinning back fist, then clips him with a 1-2 over the top and hits him with another one on the ground, ends up putting him out cold. I think Tulio will be back. I think he'll be fine. But CLD, I think, is starting to put things together now. Then we got Padilla versus Bonfim. Padilla ends up getting the second round stoppage. Bonfim is just not, I don't want to say real fighter. He's just not a very tough guy. We've seen it in all of his losses now, to where he starts facing any adversity, or there's a guy that he can't put out and they start walking him down, he tends to just kind of melt. That's what Padilla ends up doing in the second round. Then we got Medic versus Salikov. Medic ends up getting it done by first round KO. He looked fantastic. I think the official pick we gave here was Salikov, but we had fight to not go the distance, fight to end by KO. Medic was just the faster, sharper guy. And we did not see him get hit cleanly. Who knows if things would have gone differently if he got hit clean, but he ends up getting it done by first round KO. Then we got Morales versus Schnell. Morales, we hit that on the money line and the minus 3.5 as well. Ends up getting it done by second round guillotine choke. Morales is looking legit, man. Really good grappler. Forced the issue was, reversed some positions. Just was moving from submission to submission. Ends up getting Schnell. Then main event, Bonfim versus Randy Brown. Bonfim ends up getting it done with a knee in round 2. Looked really good. He did not even have to use his grappling. Going in, always knew that Randy Brown's durability was going to be, could potentially be a problem. So our money line play on Brown does not hit. Down goes our draft of the week for the second straight week. I think we're now 0-2 on draft of the weeks. And also the +5.5 doesn't hit. But Bonfim looked good. Solid win. I still think as he moves up the ranks, he's going to get handled by a lot of these guys. But on the card overall, didn't have a pick for this fight. 0-1 on the Miles Johns, 1-1 on Gomes, 2-1 on Hokit, 3-1 on Cavalcanti, 3-2 on Simone, 3-3 on Emil, 3-4 on Tulio, 4-4 on Padilla. I think 4-5 on Salikov, 5-5 on Morales, and then 5-6 on Brown. So just not a good card. Picks wise, betting wise, it was okay. But some of these Apex cards, man, you can never tell. Anyway, we're gonna move on to this weekend's fights. It's a fantastic card. Really looking forward to it. And so let's go ahead and just break it down. Start with the first fight of the night. We have Vyacheslav Borshchev versus Matheus Camilo taking place in the lightweight division. Camilo's coming in off that loss in his debut to Gabe Green, where had some success early, had a triangle fully locked up. Gabe Green's surviving it, and then Camilo just kind of gave up at that point, ends up getting submitted. And Borshchev, really tough guy, very good striker, not a whole lot of finishing potential. And he's come out that loss to Terrence McKinney where he got subbed in the first round. The pick here is going to be Camilo. I just think he has the grappling advantage. He could just kind of lay and pray on Borshchev here. He could potentially get the finish. But I don't have confidence in the guy coming out that loss to Gabe Green. I don't like the fact that as soon as he didn't get the finish, he kind of quit. You know, Borshchev I know is not going to quit unless he's about to go out. But you know, his takedown defense is not good. He does have very good striking. He doesn't have a ton of power, though. So the pick is going to be Camilo here. I don't really like any bets in this fight. You could potentially play. It does not go the distance, but Borshchev is historically a pretty tough dude. He got subbed by McKinney. Decision loss, decision win. Got subbed by Hooper, but he really didn't tap. If you go back and watch it, he was getting absolutely dominated and beat up, but he didn't really tap. But we're going to go with Camilo here for the pick, and we'll take him by decision. All right, next fight we have Balsanger Susurkaev versus Eric McConico taking place in the middleweight division. McConico coming off the split decision win over Cody Brundage. Fairly well-rounded guy. Nothing really special to his game. And then on the other side, you got Susurkaev, who had that win on Contender Series and then ended up having a quick turnaround and fighting on that following Saturday. He is mainly a striker. Has good takedown defense. He did actually get a submission win in his last fight, and we also saw him get kind of clipped in that fight. But Susurkaev is going to be the pick here. I think he's probably going to put McConico out in the first or second round. I think that the Susurkaev kind of getting almost exposed in his last fight was a good thing for him. I think he took it on short notice, wasn't really giving the guy any respect, and almost paid the price for it. So I'm gonna go Susurkaev here, probably by first round knockout, but I think he is safe to parlay. I also like this fight to not go the distance. All right, next fight we have Angela Hill versus Fatima Kline. Fatima Kline, coming in here as a much younger fighter, 15 years younger than Angela Hill. She's very well rounded. Started a knockout in her last one. Before that, got the KO from ground and pound. On the other side, you get Angela Hill. We all know Angela Hill at this point. Very well-rounded, durable girl. But she is getting up there in years. She's 40. And I think, actually, her last fight was kind of the first time that she actually looked like she was really showing her age. So I'm going to take Kline as a pick here. I think she's a massive favorite. I don't think she should be that big of a favorite. But I do think she is going to get the job done. So pitch pick here is going to be Fatima Kline by decision. I do think she's pretty safe to parlay. I mean, she's not going to get finished by Angela Hill, and she's definitely going to have the bigger moments in this fight. All right, next fight we got Chepe Mariscal versus Pat Sabatini, taking place in the featherweight division. Pat Sabatini is an extremely good grappler, but he has no chin. Yeah, and his striking is not great either. It's kind of like that decision win over Brito. Before that, got the submission win over Jonathan Pierce. Chepe, on the other hand, very well-rounded guy. Hasn't fought in 8 months. He's been out for a little bit. Like I said, very well-rounded. Heavy on the pressure, heavy on the cardio. Pretty durable guy as well. Oh, man, I don't really know who to pick in this fight. I can honestly see this fight going either way. From a betting side, I would just stay away from this fight entirely. Because Pat Sabatini, as soon as he gets a takedown, you will stay there for the rest of the round. You're not going to get back up. Although he is extremely chinny, if Chepe can make him work and get up and kind of put the pressure on him, I could see him potentially getting a finish. But Chepe does not have a ton of power in his hands. And also in this Damon Jackson fight, he did end up beating Damon Jackson pretty badly. However, there were times where Damon Jackson was getting takedowns and was kind of getting the back of Chepe. And if Sabatini is doing that to you, he's going to finish it, or he's definitely going to win the fight. So I'm going to take the slight lean here on Sabatini, but I would not bet this fight at all. I mean, Sabatini is very untrustworthy because of his chin, but he's also incredibly good at the same time with his grappling and control. So I'm going to pick Sabatini, probably by decision, but this is definitely a fight to stay away from in terms of the betting side. All right, next fight, we got Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cody Haddon in the bantamweight division. We got a match for the prospects here. Haddon 1-0 in the UFC, coming off the decision win over Dan Argueta in his debut. Very well-rounded fighter. Got pretty solid boxing, pretty good takedown defense. On the other side, we got Malcolm Wellmaker. I'm sure most of you guys probably know him by now. He is a knockout artist, coming off that knockout win over Chris Moutinho. Very slick striker. Oh. This fight is a very close fight. We haven't seen much out of Wellmaker other than the first round knockouts, which, dude's got a nasty right hook. I think he can put pretty much anybody out, but we haven't seen him go past the first round. And the two guys he's fought in the UFC, in Simon and Chris Moutinho, are not the greatest guys. And so I wouldn't be surprised here if he ends up knocking out Haddon in the first round, but watching that Moutinho fight, he was just hunting for that right hook and kind of just spamming it over and over again. And Moutinho is fucking garbage. So we basically learned nothing from that fight. And they threw it together on short notice just to give the guy a win in Georgia. But I'm going to pick Wellmaker. I would not be surprised if Haddon came in here and got the job done. Australians have been killing it lately. So I'm going to pick Wellmaker. We'll go first round KO, but I am not betting this fight at all. All right, next fight we have Aaron Blanchfield versus Tracy Mami Cortez. It's just taking place in the UFC flyweight division. Blanchfield, come forward, heavy pressure wrestler, coming off that win over Rose Namajunas. Not very dangerous. Can submit you if she gets you on the ground. Her takedowns really aren't that great. It's really just her forward pressure and just relentlessness that tends to get girls to the ground. On the other side, Tracy Cortez, 12-2, coming out that win over Vivian Araujo. Tracy's a pretty well-rounded girl. She's mainly a wrestler, grappler at heart, but she has developed her boxing over the years. And I think she's kind of the perfect anti-grappler, because if you look at her record, this win right here, this Jasmine Jasudavicius win, I think is a very telling fight of how this fight might potentially go, to where Tracy is going to have the takedown defense to defend the takedowns from Aaron. And I think she'll be competitive with her on the feet. I think she definitely has the better boxing. So it's just going to come down to whether or not Tracy has the cardio to keep up with Aaron, and whether that pressure starts to make a difference. But I think Tracy has the recipe here, and if this is going to be a close decision, you know damn well who they're going to give it to. Okay, they're going to give it to the hot one. Okay, so I'm actually going to pick Trace Cortez in this spot. I like the plus 3.5 a lot. I also like the over 2.5. I think nobody's getting finished here. It's a women's fight. But Trace Cortez by decision is going to be the official pick. All right, next fight. We got a banger here in the middleweight division. Roman Kopylov versus Gregory Robocop Rodrigues. Robocop, pretty well-rounded guy. Has power in his hands. He has good wrestling. Good submission game as well. Kopylov, on the other hand, primarily a striker, has pretty solid takedown defense, but once you get him down, he's kind of a fish out of water down there. I'm picking Robocop in this spot. I think that he's going to be able to mix in the takedowns, and Robocop, his chin is just so hit and miss. Like, you know, he could eat a baseball bat to the face in one fight, and then in the next fight will get knocked out by a gust of wind. You know, he's not the most reassuring guy to bet on. But Kopylov isn't really known for his knockout power in his hands, and most of his knockouts, unless they're head kicks, tend to come from working the body. And so I don't think he's going to knock out Robocop with body shots, especially in a 3-round fight. I don't think Robocop is going to gas, and I don't really see him stinging him with his hands. So I'm going to go Robocop here by second round submission. All right, next fight we got the fraud, Bo Nickal, taking on Rodolfo Vieira in the middleweight division. Rodolfo Vieira, as his nickname suggests, the black belt hunter. He is a jiu-jitsu guy, very accomplished jiu-jitsu guy. Most of his wins in the UFC are by submission. I think most, if not all of them, are. Although he doesn't have the greatest wrestling, but he's definitely improved since he got to the UFC. His striking has improved greatly. He has pretty solid boxing. Bo Nickal, on the other hand, calling out that loss to RDR, where he essentially got broken, and then we've seen RDR break, so, kind of funny how that works. But Bo Nickal, good wrestler, okay striker. I haven't really seen anything special with Bo Nickal. I thought from the jump that he wasn't wasn't the greatest guy to begin with. But I'll pick him to win this fight here. I just think that Vieira isn't going to be able to get him down. I think Bo can kind of just win a point fight on the feet. But I do like the Vieira plus 3.5. I think that he can at least win a round. I think he's got a good jab. He's got a good 1-2. I don't think Bo's going to have the power to knock him out or put him away. And I don't think he's going to shoot either. I think he's scared to shoot with these jiu-jitsu guys. So I'm going to take Bo by decision, but I'm not confident betting either side of this. So I do like the plus 3.5. I think Vieira can sneak it around there. All right, main card opener. We have Beneil Dariush taking on Benoit Saint-Denis, the God of War. Taking place in the lightweight division. So Benoit is actually one of my favorite fighters. And thank God that the UFC did not end up letting that Joel Alvarez fight go through, because that would have put BSD on a 3-fight losing streak. You know, potentially looking at getting his walking papers. And you know, that could have been the end of BSD. But ends up getting that freebie win over Prepelec. Coming off a great win against Hoofy in his last fight. Dariush, on the other hand, coming off that win over Moicano, where he went heavy on the wrestling. But he is getting up there in age. He's 36. He looks like he's 40. Benoit is 29. If you look at this fight, it's really kind of a mirror matchup. Like, both guys are southpaws. Neither one has the greatest boxing, but they both heavily rely on their kicks. And they're also pretty good grapplers. And normally in a spot like this against a grappler, I would pick Dariush because he does have very good defensive grappling. But Beneil doesn't really tend to do the damage with his grappling. Like when BSD lost to Moicano was, you know, ground and pounding and beating him up. I don't really think Dariush has that in his bag. And I also don't see Dariush getting a submission here either. So I'm going to pick the younger guy here in BSD. I think that his just relentless forward pressure is going to end up breaking Beneil as the fight goes on. And Benoit by decision is going to be the official pick. I like the Benoit money line here. And hoping he gets it done. One of my favorite guys. All right, next fight. We got another banger. Leon Edwards taking on Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates, another one of my favorite fighters. Carlos Prates, very slick striker, nasty power on the feet. Pretty good takedown defense. Leon, on the other hand, very good striker, not very dangerous, but he is very well-rounded. Kind of with that loss to dominating loss to Sean Brady in his last fight. Pick is going to be Prates here. I like Prates, slightly biased pick. I'm going to pick him to win by decision. It does kind of worry me, though, because Leon has never really lost to another striker. Leon has lost to heavy grapplers, but he's never really lost to other strikers. And Leon can mix in the takedowns if he needs to. And for Prates, this Ian Gary loss does concern me because Gary just skirted around the outside for the entire fight, would mix in the takedowns. And it just took Prates a long time to get going and finally track him down. And I don't think Leon moves as much as Gary. But that style just doesn't play well into Prates. But he also took this Gary fight on short notice. And I think it was such a switch up that he just wasn't prepared for it and thought he'd kind of get through it anyway. So I'm going to go with Prates here. I think Leon is pretty much done at this point. I like the Prates money line. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts him out here, but I think Leon will probably just not put himself in danger and end up losing a decision. All right, next fight, we have another banger going on here in the welterweight division. Sean Brady taking on Michael Morales. Morales undefeated in the UFC, undefeated in his career. He is a pretty athletic dude, very powerful, pretty well-rounded. On the other side, you got Sean Brady, very good jiu-jitsu, coming with that big win, domination over Leon Edwards. He's a heavy pressure guy, wants to get you to the ground, wants to control you, wants to get that submission. But I am going to be picking Morales to get it done here in this spot. I cannot get this Belal Muhammad loss out of my head. I know that Belal was the champ. I know that Belal is good. But getting finished by Belal is not a good look. I'm like, Morales has the power advantage in this matchup. He was like an Ecuadorian national wrestling champion. And so I think that he can, at least initially, stuff the takedowns from Sean Brady and just kind of use his athleticism to explode out of positions and get back to the feet. He's got a large reach advantage here. I think that he's going to be piecing up Brady in the face, jabbing his nose off. And I don't think he gets the finish, but I think he can discourage Brady enough that the shots are going to be coming less and less. And I think Morales is going to get this done by decision. It does concern me. Burns did get a takedown on him, but I mean, Morales got right back up, but he did give his back. So there is a bit of concern there, but I think Morales went into that Burns fight just thinking I was going to steamroll him. Gave him no respect. But I think he'll show Brady a little bit more respect here. But I think with his athleticism and the power advantage, I think that he's going to get it done here. All right, co-main event. Weili Zhang versus Valentina Shevchenko. Weili is moving up to not become a double champ because those don't exist anymore apparently, but to become a 2-weight division world champion. I am kind of excited for this fight, but also at the same time, every fight that Valentina is in is just boring as hell. But I'm going to be picking Weili in this fight. Weili is only slightly smaller, 1 inch height disadvantage, 2.5 inch reach disadvantage. But I think that Shevchenko has been looking bad in her last several fights. I think this Grasso loss was kind of the first one where it was like, this is the downfall. And then I thought she won the second fight with Grasso. Ends up beating her pretty clearly at the Sphere in the next one. Then comes out that win over Madame Vieira. And the one thing with most of these fights that she's winning recently is that she's mixing in the wrestling. And that's kind of how she's winning. She doesn't look as good on the feet. And Weili, we know, has fantastic offensive and defensive wrestling. I think she can take Shevchenko down here if she wants. I think she's going to stuff all of Shevchenko's takedowns. She's going to be faster. She's going to be stronger. And I just think Shevchenko's way past her prime. If Vieira, who's a striker, is, taking you down and getting you up in the clinch, I think Zhang can do that exact same thing, but much, much better. So I like the plus 5.5 here for Zhang. I like the Zhang money line. She's a slight dog. But Zhang, I believe, will become a 2-weight division world champion. And Shevchenko will be probably looking towards retirement. All right, the main event of the evening. The man who saved the welterweight division, Jack Della Maddalena, versus former lightweight champion Islam Makhachev. Makhachev, extremely well-rounded, mainly a grappler, but has really developed his striking over the years. Has very good kicks. He's coming up from 155 to 170 to try to win 2 belts here. Jack Della on the other side. Fantastic striker. Great boxing combinations. Works the body really well. Showed pretty good takedown defense in his last fight against Bilal. And I'm going to be picking Jack Della Maddalena here. I think JDM is going to get it done. I think working with Craig Jones, that fight against Bilal, which is kind of the same style here as Islam, but just with less forward pressure, I think that Jack is going to be able to get his boxing combinations off. I think that the body work is going to be a huge thing here, that if we get into rounds 4 and 5, I think that Jack Della is the one that's going to be fresher. I do worry about Islam getting the back in this fight. That's one thing that Bilal isn't great at. Bilal isn't great at getting the back. He's more just take you down and just kind of keep taking you down over and over. Whereas Islam will take you down, control you, get your back, look for the submission. I think it'll be a competitive fight, but I think Jack Della, just being the bigger man here, he has the power advantage. You know, we've seen guys like Dustin Poirier, you know, in his late 30s stuffing takedowns from Makhachev and kind of, you know, at times giving it to him on the feet. I think it will be competitive, but I think that Jack Della is going to end up getting it done by, you know, we'll go with 4th round TKO for Jack Della. I think JDM is that dude. Like I said earlier, Australia's been on a roll recently, and I don't think it stops here. I think JDM is leaving Madison Square Garden as the welterweight champion and sending Islam back down to 185 where he can go get his ass knocked out by Ilia Topuria. So, just to review the card, first fight of the night, we're taking Camilo to get it done by decision. We got Susurkaev by KO in round 1 or 2. We got Kline by decision. We're going to go Sabitini by decision. Oh shit, looks like I forgot this fight. We're going to go Daukas. We'll go Daukas by... We'll go Daukas by 2nd or 3rd round submission. I just think GM3 is done at this point. The days of GM3 pulling comebacks out of his ass is done and over with, I fear. Then we're going to go Wellmaker, round 1 KO. We're going to go Cortez by decision. Going to go Robocop by 2nd round submission. We're going to go Nickal by decision. BSD by decision. Prates by decision. Morales by decision. Zhang Weili by decision. And Jack Della by 4th round TKO.